116, Let Me Not to the Marriage of True Minds by William Shakespeare. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh hell no, it is a never fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. If this be error and upon me proved, I never writ, no man ever will.
Raise your hand if you studied Shakespeare in school. Now raise your hand if you liked it as much as this girl. That's a lot fewer. I'm here today to talk to you about schools. Why do we send our children to schools? To gain knowledge, to learn about math, reading, and how to interact with others. We hope that school will make them more active citizens and lead them to more productive careers. I've seen schools in three ways: as a student at a desk, as a teacher in front of a chalkboard, and as a filmmaker through the lens of my camera. Being behind the camera always changes me, as I'm moved by people who can powerfully articulate what they want and how they fight for it. For many children around the world, education is a lifeline. Today, I'm going to tell you a story of determination and education here in South Africa. I spent the last year traveling around the country telling the stories of what's happening in schools. The one thing that the schools I visited have in common is that they all serve disadvantaged communities and are having academic success. These schools are doing relatively well despite hunger, lack of resources, toilets, books, and other resources, and often unresponsive provincial and national governments. The national average pass rate for matric in South Africa is 73%. Many schools similar to the ones I visited are getting 40%, but these schools are getting 90 to 100% pass. So what do we imagine happens in the classroom of these schools? How do our expectations differ based on where a school is located? If you see a well-resourced school or your child attends one, you likely have assumptions about what kind of education that child is getting. Do you have any expectations when you think about struggling schools? You probably think they're failing kids, whether due to leadership, poverty, or resources. And that's often the case. But what I've seen defies the expectations and stereotypes. These schools go far beyond what people see.
There's this saying that says, never judge a book by its cover. I will say the same thing. Let the conditions not make them judge this school, because what this school produces, it's what will change the world. When they come here, they find a home. These teachers are not only teaching them about what is in the books, they also teach them about life. They build them.
There's a principal in Soweto told me there's no recipe for success. Sometimes it's simple: good leaders who hold teachers accountable. And sometimes what's revolutionary is obvious. One principal told me her school works because students are in class on time, teachers are in class on time, and they teach. The question we should be asking ourselves is why this isn't the norm. On paper, we create strategies and build education systems. Sometimes they work, often they don't. We use statistics to assess schools and examine progress. But what's often missing are the voices of the people who work in the schools themselves. I see things from a different point of view. Through my work, I have heard these voices. I know the numbers are important, but it is when we engage with an actual people, an actual place, that ideas shift and we can understand why a school works. These are not schools about education systems. I picked up the camera to show schools that shift the paradigm. These are stories about resilient and determined young people who get to school at 6 a.m. for mandatory study or a class on Romeo and Juliet taught by the principal. These are stories of teachers with concrete strategies who get students to love calculus as much as they do Shakespeare. These are principals with philosophies and visions that is felt throughout the school. These men and women fight and sacrifice for their students because they know what's at stake.
If they say I'm strict, that's what they say. I've studied quite a number of leadership styles, but I've never found one that fits me.
I've got to be who I am in terms of what I want to achieve.
My vision is to see this school as a beacon of excellence when all other schools crumble in whatever way. But Velabashege remains the hope of the people.
Over the last year, I've been to all 9 provinces. I've seen the dry isolation of the Northern Cape just south of Namibia, the rolling hills of the Eastern Cape, and densely populated townships where many students live in shacks and schools often serve as safe havens. I've been in classrooms with 98 students where the principal told me it was better than last year's 102. And when I started this project, I had a list of factors in mind: good teaching, continuous assessment, extra classes, community engagement. These things happen at all good schools. And while they're important to think about, it is the stories that tell us much more about these schools.
The school was started in 1993 when there was violence all over Katlehong. There was a fight between the ANC, the soldiers that were deployed by the previous government. There was blood all over. And there was no time even to bury those that were dead. And it is then that this school was started. The red in our school colors is to say there was spillage of blood in Katlehong, but there was hope. Hence, the white color represents hope, to say after some time, all this shall be over.
All the principals I've met know what they're lacking, but they say they do the best with what they have. This is what makes these schools work. Despite overwhelming challenges, these leaders are pushing forward. Some do it by empowering teachers to be agents of change in the school. Others create environments of love and discipline to make schools feel like home. Principals Julius Horneman and Edward Gabata both teach. Horneman would much rather be in a classroom than sitting behind a desk. Gabata uses his students' good results to show his teachers that success is possible. For Bonginkosi Mapanga, the key is high expectations. Amidst poverty, much of the community, including Mapanga, put all their eggs in one basket: the school. Mapanga works tirelessly to imbue high expectations and show the power of an institution to transform a community. When one looks at how far Mapanga has come, you can see how successful he is.
You see, this tree has got a long history. Learners used to sit around here using blocks and bricks, and then the teacher used to stand here and teach these learners. So that is how it became a classroom. We can't cut this tree because it's having a history in the school.
A lot of people say, okay, great, these schools are getting 100%, but is anyone qualifying for university? All of these principals know that a basic pass won't get their students very far, especially because the bar is set so low. A student only has to get 35% in order to pass matric exams in South Africa. These principals aren't just aiming for the 100%. They're aiming for 100% equality that ensures higher education, better jobs, and a more hopeful future for their students. And these expectations are flowing down to students. They have witnessed the transformation in their country, and they are eager to contribute to it. One message unified students: education is the key to the future. Knowledge, a grade 12 student in Limpopo, told me that he always thought urban schools were better than his. Then his school won the national moot court competition. Now he knows his school is just as good as anyone else's, so his dreams can be too. The truth is, the resiliency of these students contributes to the quality of the school. It is not just the principals and the teachers, but the investment and strength of the students who push each other forward. I always ask students what they want to be in the future. They say they want to go to university, they want to be doctors, lawyers, engineers, and teachers, but almost all of them want to provide for their family and plow back into the community to change the circumstances. And their teachers are hoping to get them there.
Being a teacher, you are supposed to be an eye-opener. It makes me part of those who feel they are molding, building the nation directly. I might not be touching the whole of South Africa, but being a teacher means changing lives.
Teachers at good schools create energy in the classroom. They engage students in lessons and try to meet students on all levels. Martin Tinoziva, a science teacher in Limpopo, tries to rid his students of the notion that science is difficult. He poses tough questions, gets students to solve problems, all the while saying there are no wrong answers in science, just mistakes that need to be corrected. He believes that teachers must understand that students come with prior knowledge, and they must acknowledge that and build upon it. If teachers think they know everything and students know nothing, then teachers will fail. One unique goal I heard expressed by teachers over and over again was to produce students who can be active members of society. This is not just about academics for them. It is about so much more. They are fighting for their students, and they're trying to get their students to fight for themselves, to go past the poverty and unemployment they see in their communities, past whatever expectations or lack of expectations people might have of them, and to see beyond.
Dit is eintlik ook 'n groot taak om ons kinders weer selfvertroue by ons kinders in te boesem en ons kinders regtig waar te vat op 'n pad om hulle ambisieus te kry om vir hulle sê maar julle kan dit doen.
So it's kind of exciting. Just imagine what could happen if we could harness the energy of these schools and spread it around South Africa. What would it look like if we could replicate these methods and use them to transform other disadvantaged schools with limited resources? Or another exciting idea, given the fact that these schools that work are having so much success with limited resources, what would it look like if they had all resources available to them? Imagine if all these students had doors open to them. What would it look like to level the playing field? When we filmed those girls, it was in early January, and the principal said, oh, you can film the drumettes, and we didn't really know what that meant. Are they drummers? What's happening? And literally, I mean, I just couldn't have imagined what was happening there. You know, I pretty much blew my mind at Botswana Commercial Secondary School in Mafeking. Over the last year, I have visited diverse school communities, each with their own story, all moving towards the same goal. Teachers who are nurturing learner potential, and principals who understand the power of education to change lives, and students with goals who want to be active members of the new South Africa and contribute to community and country. They know what matters, but it is when we all decide that this matters that real change begins. Thank you.